It's a great day. My name is Che Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the #1 business development and revenue focused late night show in the country where we're on a mission. And our mission really is to empower, our mission is to inspire, and our mission is to provide you, the entrepreneur, with all of the resources that are really necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. And on this episode, we have the one and only Donnie Bryant, who's in the building. He'll be talking about how to use subject line science to sell more with email. I can't wait for this conversation. What's going on, Donnie? How are you?
Jay, I'm never better. How have you been?
Man, I'm doing well, and I can hear people screaming loud and clear. Ask them first, Shay, does email still work? Does email still work? Should I even pay attention? That's a reasonable question, I think, for a lot of entrepreneurs who are listening right now. So I guess my question is, does email even work these days?
Yeah, it is a great question because it seems like all of the really sexy stuff is TikTok, if that's even going to be legal for long in America, social media and these things. But the truth is, statistics will show email is the most profitable in terms of return on investment, the most profitable marketing channel that there is. And the numbers that I see, they say that for every $36 to $42, for every dollar that you invest in email, you're going to get $36 to $42 return on investment. So the numbers are spectacular. But not only that, whenever you turn around, you hear about Instagram going down, Facebook freezing up. There's a hack on these channels. Email works consistently and likely always will. So yes, it does work and it works well.
Now, you say it works and it works well. I like email because if it's free, it's always for me, by the way. And I have noticed, and maybe we'll talk about that a little later, a number of providers have changed now. I mean, I'm an Infusionsoft person. It doesn't matter if you're Active Campaign or Infusion or Kajabi or MailChimp or Salesforce, whichever one you are, Pipedrive. So don't send me a note because I'm not sponsored by any of them. But I have noticed that there's been a change where I used to be able to send email as many as I wanted at no cost. And now when I hit this threshold, which I do hit, by the way, I can't, I'm being charged. And I love the way you start off with saying that it's still profitable, because I will tell everyone listening, yes, indeed, it still is. It's a negligible extra $100, $200 or whatever it is. It pales insignificant. So my question to you next is, you talked about subject line selling by having a better subject line. First, talk about the power of having a subject line, because one of the challenges I hear is, Shay, I go back, if they have a CRM, I look, my emails ain't even being opened. Is it all going to spam? And I'm like, no, everybody's email does not go to spam. They just didn't open it up. So my question is, talk about why it's important to have a subject line and what that even is.
Sure. Well, you're a sales guru. You know sales, right? Have you ever tried to sell on a subway?
Sell on a subway?
Yeah, you try to, like, in-person selling on a subway.
No.
It's not an ideal scenario to be selling, right? You really want to have someone's captive attention. And the email inbox is very much like a subway. There's noise everywhere. There's distractions. There's lots of voices. And your subject line is the way that you grab attention and you call out to the person that you want to talk to and let them know there's something of value, something of interest to you if you come listen to me. Otherwise, there's just noise. And so we have to pay attention to the kind of things that we can provide that are of value, the kind of problems that we can solve, the kind of value that we can deliver for our target audience, so that we can talk about it in just a few words and get their attention really quickly. Otherwise, you get lost in the noise. So that's why subject lines are really important. It's the beginning of the conversation.
And for the layperson, because 70% of the audience, a good part of the audience, I say maybe 80%, at least 70%, they're dualpreneurs, so they work a full-time job and they're full-time entrepreneurs. So they're listening like, okay, I get it. I know I need it. But he keeps saying subject line. Can you maybe break it from another area? Maybe you guys will grab this. Think of it as the subject line is the hook. And maybe he'll talk about what the importance of a hook is. And he talked about it to grab their attention. So instead of you thinking about what is the subject of this email, I want him to, if you can, if it's okay with you, Donnie, if you have time, but can we step back for a moment, slow down and say, hey, here's the hook? Because without this, they're not reading anything else.
Yeah. Well, there are multiple kinds of hooks, as you can imagine, especially if you want to talk to someone multiple times in a week or in a month. You don't want to always use the same line. So really the hook is one of a couple of things. We want to say something that gets your reader curious. Curiosity is huge. In fact, it's one of the main things that drive human attention. I just heard about a study that it was a clinical study. People were in a room and there were pens that were marked. It was a green pen, and the green pen it doesn't do anything. The red pen will give you an electrical shock, and then there's a blue pen that you don't really know. And people would pick up the blue pens and because they have to know, is this one going to shock me or not? People are driven by curiosity, and especially in these days, right? Curiosity gets you every time. That's why clickbaity kind of things, their job is to just get you to stop for a second and be curious. So the hook is anything that can get people curious. If we talk about, I'm sorry, were you about to say something?
No, go ahead.
Celebrities make you curious. Mysteries, hidden stories, or just stories in general. If you have a problem in your life and I have a mystery solution, you're curious about it. And so we can use those sort of things to spark curiosity in someone's mind. Another kind of hook is obvious value. So one that we see a lot, the 30% off orders of $50. There's value. I know if I'm trying to buy something. There's one clothing company that every time they send an email, my wife buys. She spends money every single time.
I know that feeling.
Yeah. And it's because there's value. She knows I like this company. I like saving money. If it's free, it's for me. Free shipping. I'm opening.
Yeah.
I'm buying. And so that's a way of hooking someone, saying there's value here, relevant value to you. And other things are personal sounding. So if it looks like it's from a friend or from a friendly voice, we tend to say, hey, that's for me. And then we'll open it. So there's a lot of different things like that, hooks like that. But those are a couple we can use to kind of get the conversation going.
And they're watching, they're listening to you and saying, hey, he sounds like he's spot on. Who is he, Shay? What is his background? What is his story, by the way? So you know where I'm going with this. Who are you? Obviously, tell us your backstory. And then what was that defining moment that kind of led you to what you're doing now? And everyone listening, in all seriousness, and I don't say this, I've never said this, but next to sales, what he does is the next best thing. Obviously I would say invest in a salesperson, but the salesperson can't sell if they don't have anything to talk about. And so I'll be very honest with you. So you're in a very important conversation. This is probably a number of episodes we do. I would say this is probably a money conversation, to be honest with you, because if you get better at what you say, when you say it, and how you say it, it will change your entire business and the audience you're associated with. And I say that as humbly as I possibly can, trying not to be biased. But anyway, tell them about who you are, man.
Well, Peter Drucker said the job of marketing is to make selling superfluous. That's not a direct quote, it's a paraphrase. But we want to make it, if you do marketing well, the salesperson job is much easier. And if you don't do marketing well, the salesperson has to work that much harder. And you don't really want unqualified leads on the phone. You don't want that. So marketing is important. And that's why I'm excited to have this conversation. Closing the sale, that's where the money is. So I'm Donnie Bryant, as my little lower third says. I am taken. See, I love my wife. I am. This is one of those shirts that when the email comes, you got to buy. I'm a direct response copywriter, a marketing and messaging consultant. I live in Chicago, and I love small businesses. I love helping small businesses communicate in a way that attracts the right people and shifts their thinking, galvanizes their desires so that they want to buy from you. I'm obviously married. I have 4 children. Actually, none of them are really children anymore. I have 4 young ones who I adore and who I do what I do for. And I think that's me.
Okay, that's spot on. Now, talk about, if you can, for those folks that are listening and say, okay, Shay, if he could give me step 1, step 2, and step 3, yes, I want to send email off. And as he's giving me step 1, step 2, and step 3 as some of the best practices to use, can I use that same email in my Facebook posts, in my Instagram? I know y'all are curious. In my LinkedIn posts? Good question. So 2-part question. Number 1, can give him, hey, by the way, for those folks out there, here's one thing you can do to take a look at your emails or make it better. Here's a second thing you can do. Here's a third thing. He's giving you a bunch already, but give you 3 ideas. And then swing to the other side if there's not too much to ask in one question. And that is, can I take the same exact one and use that on social media?
Yeah, those are great questions that I'm glad you asked. So here's how I break it down. The most important thing in any communication is to understand the person that you're talking to, the person that you want to talk to. They are not interested in things that waste their time. They're not interested in things that are boring or irrelevant to them. And so before you write your emails, the first thing that I encourage everyone to do is to really get to know the fears and frustrations of your target audience, their pains and problems, their dreams and their desires. And once you do that, you'll automatically be in a place where you can create messaging that's interesting to them. And it's got to be about them, not about you. So then now you have that, right? You have clearly defined who your audience is, who your recipients, who your email subscribers are, what they value. Once you've done that, we want to decide how we're going to create a bridge from where they are, the things that they need in their life, or the things that will improve their business or their relationships or their health, in whatever way you serve. How do we build a bridge from that place in their life to our product? I think a lot of times people think about it backwards. We want to build a bridge from our product or service back to the audience member, but really we want to start with them. What do they need? What do they believe about those things? And then how do we create a message that helps them identify, here's where I am. My sales team is not converting. They can't close on the phone. They know that that's a pain point for them. So you begin to say, well, here's 3 reasons your sales team isn't closing like they should. They're interested. If their sales team is not closing, they're opening that email. They're devouring what's inside. And so you start there. You describe the problem, or describe the reality as they see it, help them to understand what's really going on, and then offer them a solution. You want to do it in a unique way, because they probably heard people offering solutions before. What's unique about your solution? What's unique about your understanding of the problem? And if you help them understand the problem differently, then they'll say, oh, Jay's an expert, or Donnie's an expert, right? And this person brings a different perspective. I want to know more. I want to take another step forward. So that's really, I don't know how many tips that is, but that's where you want to start. And then you give them a call to action, which is basically, how do I take the next step? It's setting up a consultation with you, a discovery call, or it's downloading a free report, or it's buying a book, or whatever your next step is. And ultimately, or ideally rather, you want that first step to be something that's pretty easy to do. So click here to book your discovery call. That's easy. All you got to do is click and put in a little bit of information. In emails, a lot of times we don't want to sell a $10,000 thing on the first go. We want to build up to that. So that's where you want to start. And then you can really use an email. Most the format may need to be a little different, but you can use the content across platforms, at least across. Video is different, but on Facebook, on LinkedIn, or as your captions on Instagram say, I do it all the time, and I show clients how to do it all the time, where you can take the same content and, like I said, minimal change in formatting depending on what you're trying to accomplish, but you can use the same ideas in email as you do for social media. Sure, I do it all the time. Matter of fact, I rarely create anything for social media that wasn't an email first.
I love it. Now the other question has to be in someone's mind, at least it's on my mind as well, which is share the comparison between a short email versus a long email. And I
Yes.
know there might be some science behind that, by the way. And some of you are wondering, email too short? Is it too long? Does it need to be short? Does it need to be longer? When does it need to be short? Like, he can't get into all that. He's going to have a way for you to connect with him, I'm sure. This is probably the secret agent that you need in your business right now. But we can at least ask him the question and give us the thought process behind a short email versus a long email, and when are some best practices to use those?
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad you asked. I get that question a lot too, because we all kind of want a simple solution, maybe a one size fit all solution. And unfortunately, it doesn't really work that way. So here's how I think about it. If we're doing like a sales sequence or a marketing sequence, I will usually, I'll qualify a little bit more. If your email is sending people to a sales device, like a video sales letter or a call, or someplace where selling occurs formally, and you have reason to believe it will convert well, a short email is good. Because really what you want someone to do is pick up their thing, they look at the email, oh, here's an email, and they click, and it gets the message to them really quickly. So they say, oh, I need to take action. Don't tell them the whole story. Just give them something to, I see the value. I need to click and get on this call. Or I need to click and watch this webinar. Or I need to click and, pick up this free report. Something really short can work if you have selling occurring over here on the other side of the click. But in a sequence, though, like if you're doing a 5-step or a seven message email sequence, I usually start with shorter emails for curiosity's sake. Because curiosity, again, people will be willing to take an electric shock to satisfy their curiosity. Just make them curious, and then you drive them to the call to action. As the sequence, you get a little deeper in the sequence, email 4 or 5. I like to spend more time selling in the email, because if someone hasn't clicked yet, then the curiosity is not going to be the factor that finally gets them. Probably they need more information. And if they have clicked but haven't bought yet, they may not keep clicking. So you had to do a little more selling. So I like the emails to get longer as you go in a sequence. If you're just doing like a broadcast email or one-off email, again, it really depends on what you're trying to do. But I've seen emails work spectacularly well that are less than 100 words. Sometimes they're the 9 word, right? Are you still interested in sales training? Yes, I am. It can work spectacularly. On the other hand, I've seen emails over 1,000 words. It just tells the whole sales message, and then gives them a way to take action on the sales message. And that can be effective as well. So everything works in its right place. That's kind of the way I like to think about it, though.
I love it. And what do you enjoy most about what you're doing these days? Sounds like you're having a lot of fun.
Yeah, I am having a lot of fun. For me, what really is satisfying to me is helping businesses that are doing important work impact more lives, create more change and more value in the world. Because I try only to work with businesses who I really believe are doing good work. And people who are doing good work need as big an audience as they can get. They need an opportunity to influence as many people as they can. So I just like being a part of the team that gets the word out and gets, the influence out into the world. That's really gets me going.
That's probably a great segue as you're helping other folks to a segment that we have here called Today is My January 1st. Now, for those folks that tune in every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you already know what's going to happen. You get to say those magical words. I know you wait to say those, that today is my January 1st. And for all of our new folks who are just joining for the very first time, you probably want to know, what does that mean? Well, today is our January 1st, is our personal mantra. It represents a fresh start. It represents a do-over. It means our past, no matter how dark and gloomy it is or how bright and sunny it is back there, that past no longer equals our future. And so my question to the one and only Donnie sitting on the other side is that when you hear those words, today is my January 1st, kind of what do you hear? We're curious about that. And then maybe what was one of the challenges, one of the setbacks you had in your journey that you had to bounce back from, and what did you learn?
Yeah. So for me, we... as human beings, our destiny is whatever we make it to be. And like you alluded to, we can sometimes allow the past to lock us in, or feel like it locks us into a pattern or a situation that we don't like. But at any time, we have an opportunity to stop and say, I'm going to redefine my own story. I'm going to take control of my narrative and go in the direction of my passion, or go in the direction of my purpose, go in the direction of my joy. What is it that I want in this life? And then you can do that thing. So for me, on a January 1st, the thing that oftentimes trips me up is overthinking and perfectionism. So if I were to look back at myself and say, here's something that we're going to leave in the past, it is getting bogged down by thinking about everything that could go wrong with any decision that I wanted to make, and just trusting in my own expertise, trusting in my own ability to make it happen once I get going, or adjust if it isn't going the way I think, but to actually do motion instead of analysis, paralysis by analysis. So for me, that's the start over. If I was starting over, anytime looking at my past, I remember this was maybe 2 years ago, and I calculated how much time perfectionism had cost me, and it made me sick to my stomach when I thought about it. It's much better to get in motion and trust that you're going to be able to deliver when you get out there, rather than sitting on the sidelines and trying to figure it all out before you get out there. You won't know what's out there until you get yourself out off of the bench and get out on the playing field. So that's January 1st to me. Let's leave perfectionism in the past.
Yeah, I love it, man. And one of my favorite questions to ask is, what's one of the best pieces of advice you've ever been given? And I always frame it for the audience so they're aware of that you had a lot of mentors. They can see the bookshelf behind you. That's just, I'm sure, a slither of books that he's read over the years, by the way. And he's watched, I don't know how many videos these days, probably countless YouTube videos and more reels than we can count. So my question is, what's one of the best pieces of advice you've ever been given, and why?
For me, I'll take it from the business perspective, because that's where we're at right now. Is to spend 50% of your time. The number will vary a little, but nothing sells itself. You had to spend a predetermined amount, and I say 50% as a starting place of your time, putting your message out there, being visible to the people who you want to help, and making yourself demonstrating your expertise, establishing authority, because you can't help anyone who doesn't see you. You can't create change any place where you're not visible, and it's not happening by itself, especially today. Well, maybe it's always been true, but it seems like there's a trillion voices, there's a trillion distractions, there's a trillion options on anything that anyone could want, and you have to proactively carve out your space. So I would say that's advice and that's, if I go back and say, what's one of the missteps that really cost me, it took a lot of time from me, in addition to perfectionism. For a while, I started believing my own PR. And I said, I can sit here and business is going to come to me. And it didn't take long before it stopped. It stopped. And then I'm, freaked out. I don't know what to do. I gotta go get a regular job. And it could have been avoided if I had stayed the course and just continued to put myself out there, continue to market, continue to do, social media, sending emails, anything like that, even going to networking events or other events, being in community. I would have been much further along and had one less traumatic experience if I had taken that advice to heart, instead of, getting overly confident in my own, whatever you want to call it, letting my ego get ahead of me.
Yeah, I mean, no, it's you're spot on. We're always got to be. That's the number one job, I think, of every CEO out there watching right now, is to be the messiah for the message that represents their company. And no one's going to give that message more than you, probably more times than you out there, and the systems in place. And copywriting is the most important piece that goes to what you're saying. Although you want to come from the heart, many times you need someone like Donnie on the other side and say, yeah, we hear where your heart is and we hear what you're saying, but here's the best way to communicate it. So what you're doing, man, is is a critical piece. I always like to ask, what's one of the things that something about you that that you're a little fearful of, that when you're by yourself and no one knows it, you're like, you know what, here's one of my fears that is relates to business that keeps me up at night. What's one of the things that keeps you up at night these days, man?
For me, I think it's about life in general, but because so much of my life is business, I don't want to leave here without making my mark. I want to. It's egotistical, I suppose, but I want to have carved my name in the annals of history, at least in some place. For me, it's very important to establish a legacy with my family, but I also want to establish a legacy with in my business, my ability to help other businesses with their marketing. I want to be remembered. I want someone to talk about me in their book. When people talk about, notable copywriters in the 2000s, looking back, and they might say, Donnie Bryant was one of them. And that's, for me, it's many times I say I'm not working hard enough because I don't know that I'm etched in stone like that yet. So I don't know if that's fear or what it is, but for me, that's something that haunts me. Am I doing enough to establish that legacy and to leave a legacy for those who come behind?
What do you do for fun when you're not out saving the world? You're not out writing copy. You're not out helping businesses have more impact. What do you do for fun these days, my man?
I love hanging out with my family.
That's cool.
We do all kinds of stuff, swimming, just taking nature walks, hanging out, watching TV and movies. I love spending time with my family. I have a small group of friends, core group of friends. I love chopping it up with them. I guess I'm pretty chill. Hanging out with the family and hanging out with friends is.
Now, when you watch movies, any particular movie that you really like, or what's your favorite movie? I mean, I know that's a loaded question. It always is, but I'm just curious since you like watching movies, and it might be a kid's movie. I'm not sure because you have 4 of them. But what's one of your favorite movies and one of the principles that you learned from it?
You know what? I love Eddie Murphy. So
I thought you were going to go there. I knew you were going to go there. But tell us about it.
So Coming to America would be my favorite movie. Is there a business lesson? You know what? I think for me, Eddie Murphy is one of those individuals who inspires me because of his legacy, and his body of work is so amazing. I think Prince is the same. When you look at someone and say, wow, they're able to, over decades, create valuable content to really influence their piece of the culture. And for me, that's inspiring and motivating. I want to be able to do that for myself. But Eddie Murphy is hilarious. To me, he reminds me of my father as well. Not personality wise, but physically, he looks like my father. And I love him. Anything that he does, Eddie Murphy. I watch Norbit. I watch Pluto Nash. The ones that don't get the great rating.
You really are Eddie Murphy fan.
Yes, sir.
As we come down the home stretch, I have a 2-part question as we close out. Number 1, for folks that want to connect with you, first, are you taking on any additional clients? And what type of clients are you looking for, if any, for your firm? And number 2, how can folks best connect with you? How can they stay in this conversation over and beyond the time that you and I have now?
Yeah. Well, I'm so thankful to have this time with you, by the way.
Thank you.
For me, it would be I'm happy to talk to people who might be interested in being a client. I don't have any open spots right now. That could change. It will change at some point in the future. I don't know how long that will be. I love working with, currently I'm primarily working with financial related companies, people who are helping other people build wealth, people who are helping people get out of debt and become more aware of financial options and tools that they can use to improve their future, money-wise. Those are the kind of firms that I work with most frequently and that I enjoy working with. Because watch this, I was not aware of anything positive about money as a young person. I didn't have any. I didn't know how to keep it when I got it. And so for me, I want to ensure that people don't have the experience that I have if they can avoid it. And as we're becoming more aware of financial options, we can prosper more. And ultimately, that's what we want to do as a society. So those are the kind of people that I primarily work with and enjoy working with. Not exclusively, but primarily. So that would be the option. That would be the kind of the area that I'm focused. And the easiest way to connect with me is my website is donnie-bryant.com. I don't spend a lot of time there. Check me out on LinkedIn if you can find me. I mean, you can find me on LinkedIn. That's where I spend more time than anywhere else.
Perfect, man. Well, first, let me say two things. Number one, thank you so much for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. We appreciate it. Got to have you back, bro.
Hey, I'd love it.
And thank you to viewers. Thank you for tuning in. You know, without you, well, we don't have a show, by the way. So we appreciate when you show up. We do like it when you hit the like button, if I can like in the like button. But we really appreciate even more in our hearts when you hit the share button. Like when you pay this message forward, if you can do it, if you're watching on one of the social media platforms, you can, and you can share it to someone else where their business can be much better because of this conversation. I never get tired of reminding you every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time how special you are, how wonderful you are, how even as an entrepreneur, even someone that's a 9-to-5 millionaire, we'll use that term these days, that you are really incredible, that you're amazing, you're awesome. And no matter what you're going through, I believe today is your January 1st. And because of that reason, your best is still yet to come. Isn't that encouraging? Your better days are still ahead of you. With that being said, my name hasn't changed. It still is Che Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur. Make it a great day, everyone. And we'll make some good things out. We connect again next time. God bless. We wish you success. Peace. We out.